Hello everybody, I'm Jack and this is Raw Tropical Living. Thanks for joining me again for one of my little weekend talks. We are absolutely having some beautiful weather here in the south. I'm shooting this on Friday because I'm planning on going down to Pensacola tomorrow and enjoying some of this fall weather, getting outside, walking around a little bit, and just mainly get a little bit of a change of scenery. So today's talk is about meditation on compassion. I do videos every day, so if you're not already subscribed to my channel, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that subscribe button now. Then click on the little bell and check send notifications so you'll stay subscribed to the channel and know when I have a new video. I normally talk about food and such and fitness and what have you, but on the weekends I like to go a little bit off topic sometimes. Compassion. This is something that I've been working on a little bit lately, or I should say I've been doubling down on a little bit more. I haven't. I've been at the end of my practice. I haven't been like formally like having a meditation on compassion, but I might have to work that in there. But at the end of my meditations, I kind of like devote my meditation. A lot of people have an intent before their meditation. A lot of times, like I just devote it afterwards, like, something will come to me. And I've just been really trying to acknowledge and work on compassion and asking for more compassion, a more compassionate heart. Because I want to try to stop the judging. I tend to somewhat of an extent, I've caught myself like judging whether someone or some situation deserves compassion. Maybe it's people have brought things on themselves, in my opinion, or there's just people out there that could use our compassion a little bit more. But I don't think that in the end that's not really for me to differentiate so much, or that's not really for me to judge. It's we should be compassionate towards all beings. Doesn't mean we have to be a pushover. Doesn't mean we have to approve of everything that everybody does. It's just it's a compassion thing. It's a heart thing, and this is not. To be honest, it's also not so much of a touchy feel-good thing or being nice to the other person. This brings me peace. When I find compassion for people that maybe they're not compassionate people, or maybe they are those type people that you would judge to be not worthy of the compassion. Just by having that attitude, it just it brings peace to me. It just brings more peace than carrying around, like, well, they don't deserve it, or having any sort of negative feelings towards that person. So it is always a work in progress. So even though I'm not doing a formal meditation on compassion, so to speak, I was doing a little, when I was preparing for this talk a couple of days ago, I always go to Google and do a little research. I put in a few keywords, just kind of see a few things, gather a few thoughts. Well, I wanted to see what one of my old favorites, Thich Nhat Hanh, had to say on the subject. And I Googled Thich Nhat Hanh compassion, and I came up with this little reading. But I just happened to have the book, which is handy, so I didn't have to read from the computer. I can read from the book. So today we're going to read. This is Peace is Every Step by Thich Nhat Hanh. Wonderful book, wonderful book. As I'm going through it and I see how kind of yellowed the pages are and worn the book is. I've had this one for a long time. I wouldn't be surprised if I've had this for probably 20 plus years, maybe longer, maybe 25. So, and the reading is, as I say, meditation on compassion. Love is a mind that brings peace, joy, and happiness to another person. Compassion is a mind that removes the suffering that is present in the other. We all have the seeds of love and compassion in our minds, and we can develop these fine and wonderful sources of energy. We can nurture the unconditional love that does not expect anything in return and therefore does not lead to anxiety and sorrow. The essence of love and compassion is understanding, the ability to recognize the physical, material, and psychological suffering of others, to put ourselves inside the skin of the other. We go inside their body, feelings, and mental formations and witness for ourselves their suffering. Shallow observation as an outsider is not enough to see their suffering. We must become one with the object of our observation. When we are in contact with another's suffering, a feeling of compassion is born in us. Compassion means literally to suffer with. We begin by choosing as the object of our meditation someone who is undergoing physical or material suffering, someone who is weak and easily ill, poor or oppressed, or has no protection. This kind of suffering is easy for us to see. After that, we can practice being in contact with more subtle forms of suffering. Sometimes the other person does not seem to be suffering at all, but we may notice that he has sorrows which have left their marks in hidden ways. People with more than enough material comforts also suffer. We look deeply at the person who is the object of our meditation on compassion, both during sitting meditation and when we are actually in contact with him. We must allow enough time to be really in deep contact with his suffering. We continue to observe him until compassion arises and penetrates our being. When we observe deeply in this way, the fruit of our meditation will naturally transform into some kind of action. We will not just say, I love him very much, but instead, I will do something so that he will suffer less. The mind of compassion is truly present when it is effective in removing another person's suffering. We have to find ways to nourish and express our compassion. When we come into contact with the other person, our thoughts and actions should express our mind of compassion, even if that person says and does things that are not easy to accept. We practice in this way until we see clearly that our love is not contingent upon the other person being lovable. I need to read that again, and I need to highlight that when I'm through. We practice in this way until we clearly see that our love is not contingent upon the other person being lovable. Then we can know that our mind of compassion is firm and authentic. We ourselves will be more at ease, and the person who has been the object of our meditation will also benefit eventually. His suffering will slowly diminish, and his life will gradually be brighter and more joyful as a result of our compassion. We can also meditate on the suffering of those who cause us to suffer. Anyone who has made us suffer is undoubtedly suffering too. We only need to follow our breathing and look deeply, and naturally we will see his suffering. A part of his difficulties and sorrows may have been brought about by his parents' lack of skill when he was still young. But his parents themselves may have been victims of their parents. The suffering has been transmitted from generation to generation and been reborn in him. If we see that, we will no longer blame him for making us suffer, because we know that he is also a victim. To look deeply is to understand. Once we understand the reasons he has acted badly, our bitterness towards him will vanish, and we will long for him to suffer less. We will feel cool and light, and we can smile. We do not need the other person to be present in order to bring about reconciliation. When we look deeply, we become reconciled with ourselves, and for us, the problem no longer exists. Sooner or later, he will see our attitude and will share in the freshness of the stream of love which is flowing naturally from our heart. Something led me to this one today because this is perfect. And as I reread this again, it's a three-part process. You start and you move forward. There's always different areas. You start where you are. You start with the person that it's easy to be compassionate for, and you focus on the compassion for them. Then you kind of go more to that neutral, that person, that's just like, you wouldn't think about necessarily showing compassion for. You might think like, oh, well, they have so much going for them, or their life is so great. And then the third and most difficult part of it is actually showing compassion to people that cause us to suffer, or that are rude to us, say nasty things toward us, behave in hateful manners. And that's where the real work lies. And it's easier said than done. It's easier said than done. And I know that's something that I struggle with every day. And it's something that I'll probably be working on the rest of my life. But, we're all a work in progress. It may take a couple more lifetimes to figure it all out. But anyhow, hope you guys enjoyed this little message today. I really do. If you like it, please give me a thumbs up. Share it with your friends if you think they could use this message. And I will see you again tomorrow. Love you guys. Peace.